Everyone, Liam Hillyer here with Talk Tonight Sports. I'm joined by Ben Jones, boxer. How are you getting on? You okay, pal?
Very good, mate. Not bad at all.
Fantastic.
Living
How
the
is it at
dream.
your end?
It's not too bad, to be honest, mate. Not too bad at all. I mean, I've it's like what we were just talking about. I mean, pubs and restaurants, things like that. Shops are shut, but it's, to be honest, everyone's still at work and everything seems still busy. Which, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I do not know.
Yeah,
Who
100%.
knows?
100%. I know what you mean.
We're, I'm here to live, not here to die. I'm here to carry on.
Exactly. Fantastic. Right. Okay. So just getting into brief overview of what your career and things. 22 wins, 10
Yep.
KOs, 7 losses and 1 draw. Fantastic record, to be fair. And some great names on there, the likes of Stephen Smith and Lee Selby as well. Two names which are household names now in a way with the boxing community. Also held 5 titles, which is the IBO, British Board of Conduct, or whatever it's called, can't remember what one's called, and then the WBO, Intercontinental. I mean, a great career there, to be fair. I think if you look back at the start of your career and said to yourself, I've got 5 titles under my name by the time I'd retired, you'd be happy with that, wouldn't you? I mean, 100% you would be happy with that.
You would be, yeah, that's right. I mean, don't get me wrong, as a fighter, I would. You always want more, don't you? You know, but don't get me wrong. 5 titles. Yeah. I've got to be proud of myself. Yes.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Right. Okay. So, just to start off, how did you end up getting into boxing? I mean, I box myself, but only on a very, very small level. Everyone's got a different story, and I always find it's interesting with the fighters and how you end up falling into it. So, how did you get into it, Ben?
There's a few reasons, really. Strangely enough, in my family, my dad's side are the rough side of the family. Like they're the dragged up, rough and tough sort of the Joneses as such, you know. Yeah. And everyone would presume that that was the reason why I got into boxing. Probably is one of the reasons, yes.
Yeah.
But my mum's dad was a champion boxer in the forces.
Right. Okay.
And I spoke to a few old boys that knew my granddad in his time and said if it weren't for the wars and stuff, he'd have been a big champion as a professional, like, you know. And obviously it hit him right at the wrong time, the wars and stuff, you know. So, but yeah, so that was half the reason why I got in. Also, I was such a hyperactive young lad that boxing and probably lots of other sports, rugby, I was involved in, football in a huge way, but boxing I shone to, as well as obviously football and a few others. But I needed something to calm me down, and boxing was the one.
Yeah, I mean, it's a disciplined sport, isn't it? At the end of the day, from personal experience, I can tell you, for me, it's helped me massively with my discipline. When I was a kid, I wasn't really interested in anything. As soon as I fell into boxing, I felt like I was at home with it. Really, I was a footballer. Tried to play rugby, but I was too small, and ended up getting knocked around the pitch too much when I was playing rugby. So I felt like I needed to go to something else. So we went over to boxing, and I just took a shine to it straight away. And I think that's the main thing. If you can stand with the discipline, you can stand with the rough and toughness of it, then it's the best sport out there, 100% to be involved in. So just one thing which I would want to say is I've always been interested into where you got the name Duracell from. Where did that pop up as your nickname? Is it because you're hyperactive, I guess? Like the
Duracell, a little bit from what I just said then. Yes, that's it. I mean, I suffered with ADHD as well. Right. So, I mean, there was half the reasons why I got into boxing and sport in general. And because I was so high, my mum named me Duracell as a young kid. It keeps on going. I was that type of kid that just never stopped. And I even from school, I went to school. I stayed on an hour after school to always play a sport, whatever it was. After that, I'd be going to boxing. I'd do my hour and a half for boxing. From that, my mum would pick me up and drive me to football. Right. And then from football, that was, I mean, by that time, I'd done at least every night. I'd done 3 hours of sport. That was just how I was.
I mean,
and I'm still hyperactive.
Right. Yeah, fantastic. I mean, at that age, especially, you always want to get involved in stuff. And as I said, especially when I was younger, I always wanted to be doing some kind of sport. And I mean, it definitely does help with you're saying you've got ADHD. A few of my family members have had that, and I know keeping yourself occupied, sport's been a massive help for them. So, just going off one thing is, you mentioned you were going to the gym after. Where was your actual gym? I tried to Google all this, but I couldn't see exactly what gym you'd come from. Was there a specific gym you trained at?
I went to my first days of boxing until I turned professional was Crawley Amateur Boxing Club. So
Right,
Crawley,
okay.
which Crawley's right next to Gatwick Airport, basically. So
Yeah.
just south of London there. So,
yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, but a cracking club there.
Yeah. So just, I always find it interesting to ask. Was it yourself who kind of thought, you know what, I've got an opportunity here, like you had it, if you know what I mean? And was it yourself, or was it one of your coaches who said, you know what, this kid's got something special here?
Both in some ways. The hardest thing, as I said earlier, I was involved in so many different sports. I played for Fulham at football as well. I was actually a half decent footballer. So it was a little bit of making decisions. I played for the county of rugby, so I was a good rugby player. Even I'm tiny, as you know, I was a featherweight. So, and I played scrum half. And the hardest thing with that is I either went one way as a rugby player and bulked up, or went the other way as a boxer and trimmed down, which is, that's after what you do. So that was an easy decision to make. I went into boxing. Okay, so that was my decision. The football was difficult because I was good at football and I didn't need to be huge. I was playing on a wing, or I was a small striker, and I didn't need to be big. I was very strong anyway because of the boxing, aggressive, and my balance was good. So I didn't really need to choose. So really, the two sports chose themselves in the long run. I loved, in the end, it come to football or boxing.
Yeah.
And football, it was more the opportunities I had in boxing than I did in football. I was at Fulham when Ray Wilkins, Kevin Keegan, Alan Smith were there. Alfred had just taken over. So I was in them difficult times of football. I was the only player with the goalkeeper that was still left from the full team.
Right.
And and money come. I mean, we had players coming from all over the place, different. And you could see that I was going to be pushed out. I'd already, all my team had been pushed out, and I felt like it was going to happen. Yeah. From that, went on to Exeter, went right down south, played a little bit down there. Okay. And so I started losing a little bit of love of football, to be honest, and thought, do you know what, I'm going to concentrate on boxing. And as soon as I did, I changed from a decent boxer to a very good boxer, and I thought, do you know what, this is where I want to be. Yeah. And that was my decision myself in some ways, but circumstances made that happen.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, a good friend of mine played for Everton for a long while with the likes of Ross Barkley and James MacArthur, and he got dropped because he told him he was too small, and then he tried to go on to a bit of a lower level. I think he went to play for I think it was like Salford or something. I can't remember exactly who it was, but he just felt like the level changed from being at, like, similar to yourself with Fulham going to Exeter. It is a massive difference in sport, isn't it? It is a completely different sport at that point. So I mean, I'm just looking around your room there. There's a few interesting photos which you've got. You've got Rocky on the roller, I can see. You've got yourself, I think.
Oh yeah, I'll show you around that. I'll show you.
Muhammad Ali. There you go. Is that Sugar Ray Leonard on the wall there?
The Sugar Ray Leonard is my hero.
Oh, fantastic!
And then I don't know who this bloke is. I ain't got a clue who he is. There's the legend.
Greatest of all time, Muhammad Ali. Yeah, ironically, I've actually got a pair of Roberto Duran shorts on the wall here, which are signed by Roberto Duran. Brilliant. So, I mean, it's quite a coincidence you've got Sugar Ray Leonard and I've got Duran up here.
The famous four with me as well. They were what I was brought up. My dog's called Marvin.
After Marvin Hunter,
I got a dog. Yeah, I had a dog before. Bless him. He's died now of old age, but he was called Leonard.
Right.
So
okay.
I'm going to have the famous four dogs as well one day.
Just go through them. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, cool. So I've been watching a few of your videos, just trying to obviously familiarise myself with your stuff. I mean, you've had a 12-year career, if I'm not mistaken, at professional level. which is a hell of a long time for a boxer, and to be at a high level all the way through your career is a big achievement. Just one thing which I picked up is your kind of style which you had. It's very, very tight guard, very close together, which is great. I feel like it was a bit more counter punch than straight. You know, like kind of you were very counter punched. You were always on the front foot, which was. Which in my opinion is a very perfect style. It's something which I tried to go for when I was boxing, and I mean it seems to have worked for you. Was there any inspirations you had? I mean, we just mentioned about the big four there. Was there any in particular which were the big four, which were the main ones, or was it another boxer as a whole?
Do you know what? Not really. I think it just suited me as my name said, Duracell. So I threw hundreds of punches per round. You know, I was. I remember on one of my Sky Sports bouts. It was a 6-rounder, and I threw 800 punches in 6 rounds. And I remember it could have been Johnny Nelson or someone, and I said, "I've never seen anyone throw as many punches as that." And that just shows you know, that's just how I was. So I had a lot of energy, and the come forward and not let people go type of attitude worked for me, especially as a pro with the longer rounds and stuff, you know. As an amateur, I was a little bit different. Also, again, when I was amateur, it was point scoring, so it was a little bit more in and out, and had a different style to it. But changing to professional, I think suited my game more. I was more of a rough and tough, come forward type of boxer, and I like to overwhelm people as such, you know. So that was my plan, and that seemed to work for me.
Yeah, I mean, going from amateur straight over to professional is a whole different sport as itself, isn't it? I mean, you're going from the head guard, and as soon as you receive your first punch without the head guard on, everything changes. In my opinion, it's mad. I mean, the most I've done is 3-4 rounds, so 3 minutes, 4 rounds, and that's the most I've ever got to. And at the end of them 4 rounds, like you feel it, you completely feel it. I mean, I've seen your fights. I've seen how high pace it is. I mean, I was looking at it and I was getting tired watching it. To be fair, for what it was, it's a fantastic output. And I mean, that's why you're at the level you was. I mean, looking at all the stuff on there, it's a great career against great people. I'm looking at the box rec and stuff. There's names on there which I certainly know of, and I know other people will know of as well. And some great wins on there as well. One thing which I always ask is, you've won 5 bouts. Sorry, not 5 bouts, 5 titles. Pardon me. What was it like the first time that your hand was raised to win your first title?
Do you know what? I mean, my first title wasn't a huge title. It was the International Masters. So it was, it was your stepping stone to move to other things. But it, I think, changed me in a huge way. I mean, one, I realised, I think it was only my 5th, 6th fight, something like that, but realised that I could do 10 rounds at the time. It was 10 rounds that one at a flat out pace, which straight away put you on a whole different pedestal as a person. So your confidence was there. I remember I used to train down a gym called TKO in London. In East London.
Heard of that.
And I remember Johnny Eames was the main trainer down there.
Right.
And he said to me, "Do you know what, Ben, from winning that small title, you have improved so much, and I don't really understand how or why, just from how you having that title, but it's confidence." And it just took me and realised what I was good at and what I was better at, and I could work on it. So straight away, them titles are a big thing. Okay, they're a starting title. I shouldn't say it like that, because there's people that win them and that's their lot. And you know what? It's a fantastic thing. So I'll never knock that. But if you're trying to move on to the next levels and stuff, they're perfect. You need these. You need every stepping stone all along the way.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what you mean, don't you? It's not down speaking them. It's saying that's the start to success, isn't it? That's the start to the success. So you shouldn't be aiming for that one. You should be aiming for higher and higher and higher, and just don't limit yourself.
Of course.
100%.
The same as me. I mean, sorry. In the end, I won the WO Intercontinental, which put me number 4 in the world.
Yeah.
But that was not how I was finished. My eyes was bigger. You know, I wanted the world title next. You know.
Yeah.
That's life. Okay, it didn't happen. But do you know what? You always want more, and I hope that everyone that's a professional boxer always wishes for more. You know, you can say I had a great career. Okay, I did, but I wanted more.
Yeah, 100%.
And I will sit there and tell you that some of them losses shouldn't have been losses, and that's life, you know. But I always want more.
That's one thing which I wanted to lead into is I was watching a quick interview on the IFL TV, which was, you were just talking about a decision which was given against you. I mean, there's been a bit of uproar at the minute. I think it was against the Sam Edgerton fight about 2 weeks ago, and there was a judge in the crowd or something holding. It was what he was on his phone or something during the thing, and it was kicking off on like all over social media.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. But I mean, I was just wondering, what would your thoughts be in the judging system? I mean, when you were fighting to what it is now. I mean, I don't want to. If you don't want to answer that question, don't. But I just like to know what it's like at that level.
Do you know what? Judging's difficult, and the difficult thing is with judging is whether they're biased, cheating, or whatever. I can't say whether they are or not. But it's an opinion, so they've always going to have an opinion. So in some ways, even if the opinion with the whole crowd that was there and theirs is different, it's their opinion supposedly. So you can never take that away from them, you know. And so that's why judging is so difficult. I always thought, I mean, as an amateur, I always thought, you know, with today's technology, why don't we do it through computers? You know, I mean, you can see on Sky Sports, you can see what he's thrown 100 punches. He's landed 25. He's done this. Why don't sport go into a slightly different game and maybe say, well, you know, the advantages and disadvantages, and it can all be scaled for a computer. No one's fault then. Can only be a computer, yes or no.
Yeah, 100%.
I don't know.
That's one thing with football now as well. You know, with the football, with this VAR coming in, I mean, that was all human error. If it was a mistake made by a referee, it was a mistake made by a referee. There was no going back. But they get to review the options, and I mean, as you're saying rightly there, it could all be done with a computer. But then you're taking the human element out of a sport, which is very old school at the same time. Which I personally believe what you're saying there would be right, because you'll get the right decisions all the time. So I mean, it's one of them. It's in the sport. You either deal with it or you don't deal with it.
Exactly.
I think that's boxing for you 100%. Just one thing which I want to ask is just at the level at which you were being WBO Intercontinental champion. What's that like mentally and physically at that level for you? Because you're at the highest point there in that ranking system before you go to the world title, like the full world title. What's that like for you mentally and physically?
Mentally, I believe that any boxer or anybody in sport should believe they're the best.
Yeah.
So especially when you get to that standard, when you're right next to knocking on the doors for these world titles, because that's what was happening. Then I was getting calls. Well, hopefully, if he goes for that, he goes for this. We're going to go for that world title, and all these talks were going on. I was ready, so I physically and mentally was ready for that. The only bad thing when you're not ready for is all the letdown side of it, which is always going to happen. Yeah, after this, it's definitely going to happen. They've said yes to this, they've said that.
Yeah.
Then you go on to the next one. And the hardest thing is boxing's about your fans, which I thank all the people that supported me. I had a lovely, massive crowd. Always sold plenty of tickets, which was good. But you try telling me about the next one is going to be the world title. But it went on for 10 fights.
Yeah, I can imagine, yeah.
And you sort of feel like saying to them, it ain't my fault, it's what I'm being told, and it's difficult. So that mentally is difficult.
Yeah, I mean, that's promoters more so, isn't it, and yourself and how things happen in boxing. I mean, there's some great boxers out there who I know. Martin Murray is an instance, who's from St Helens. I've done some PTs with him last year, and he was telling me situations where he'd fought Golovkin and he felt on top of the world. Yes, he lost the fight, but there were some decisions which he should have took, and there were some decisions which he wasn't allowed to take. And I mean, similar to yourself, he was WBC Intercontinental. I'm not too sure exactly what belt it was, but that was to the level he wanted, and he was always going for the title fight. But similar to yourself was saying, he was like that so many times. So it's a sport which is, it's as it's as weird as it's going to get, isn't it? At that point, because it's 100% not down to you at that point. It's the promoters, it's the different fighters, it's the venues, it's the money more than anything at that point. So I mean, just going off a few other things I've got to ask you on here. I mean, there's one thing which has just popped up recently, which is the Callum Smith and the Canelo fight, which is a fight which has popped up, which has been in talks for years and years. I don't actually know whether there's fans available at this one because of the current situation, which is on. It's only in December the 19th. I'm not too sure whether fans will be allowed into it. It's in America, so I'm not too sure. But it's a fight which could have sold out arenas. It could have sold out Anfield. They tried to get that several times, and I was wondering what your thoughts on that'll be. Would you think between that Canelo and or Smith? Who do you think's got that one?
Do you know what? It's the weirdest and best. I mean, I see it the other day that was advertised on Twitter, and I was surprised when it happened. It was brilliant. I mean, in theory, as boxers go, Canelo's got to be one of the pound for pound best because what he's done, he's gone through the weights as well, and I really, really, truthfully think that Callum can do this. I really do. One, Callum's so much bigger. Callum's awkwardly tall as well. Classy fighter in my eyes. Absolute class of a fighter. And I think personally, how I would look at this, I'd watch your Mayweather's how he fought him. Mayweather's the total opposite to Callum, but he can box him and nullify everything that Canelo does, and that is what Mayweather did. But Callum could do it by using his size, his reach, and also obviously he's got a weight advantage of natural weight as such. You know, Canelo actually isn't that tall, and I think Callum could put himself on the map as being, if not the best pound for pound fighter on the planet from beating this.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, I mean, everyone's going on about the difference in because we fought Kovalev, we went up a weight, didn't need to fight Kovalev, Canelo a few months ago, and obviously come out of it with a knockout. But I mean, Kovalev he's a great boxer with a great record, but he was at the end, I guess, at that point. He was getting on a little bit.
Of course. So I think to win.
Yeah, to come up against a guy who's got the power, the strength, the speed, and the height advantage on Canelo, I believe, with Callum Smith. I think it's going to be an interesting fight, and I hope he wins because then I think the rematch, there will be a rematch clause for in there somewhere, and I think that'll be at Anfield in Liverpool. I think that's to happen, and if that happens, that'll be the best thing to happen here since probably Muhammad Ali and George Foreman. George, what's his name? I've lost his name. At Wembley, what was his name? Oh, anyway, I'll come back to me in a minute. He died a few years ago.
What you called me now. It's because you said George. It ain't George. It's
not George. What's his name? He died a few years ago. Yeah. That's the one. Yeah. That's the one.
Yeah, that's my area. That's where we're from. That area, you know. He would have only been 15 miles, maybe 20 miles from where I live now. You know.
Oh, so fantastic.
Yeah. So saying that 15, 20 miles down here takes me an hour and a half, 2 hours to drive.
That's it. That's
about how roads are.
Get the tube. One thing which I always say is, I always have to ask all my guests is, when you fought some tough people on there, would you put anyone out there to say was your toughest fight, or would you say they were all as tough as each other? Because I just find it's interesting to ask that question to you.
Of course. It's strange because obviously your Lee Selby's and your Smiths should be on paper. They're your two big huge names, you know.
Yeah.
And it all depends when they get you in your career. That's the problem as well, you know. I had a real tough, good fight with Lee Selby. I'd like you to watch that on YouTube. It's on there.
Yeah, I've seen it. Fantastic fight, to be fair.
Tell me whether you think I completely lost, because do you know what? I think I think he won the first 2 rounds comfortably. I think the 3rd round was close, and then I think I won after that, you know?
Yeah, I
think the worst scenario, that was a draw.
Judging system, at least. I mean, I think at minimum it was a draw there, at least. But again,
look what he went on and created after that. So good luck to him.
Exactly, yeah. he is a great fighter, but I mean, you give as good as you got in that fight as well, and I mean, it really could have gone either way, in my opinion. Look at it,
and that was my prime then. You know, that was my top thing. I moved on. I think I fought for the English title against a guy called Akash Bhatia, he was an England boy when I was amateur, and Maloney at the time was singing about him being world class, and you know, it was at the time where everyone was moving up, and Akash Bhatia had the big name of he's going to be the next world champion and whatever, all on Sky Sports. So it was a tough fight, but I completely done the business, you know, that night, and showed the difference in class.
Yeah.
So there you go. So that yes. So yeah, that was my tough fights going through. But enjoyed every bit.
With the 5 titles which you won, what one would you say meant the most to you? What one was? I mean, some people say it's the first one they won. Some people say it's the first one they won in amateurs, or it's the first one they won at the highest level, or the last one they won. You know, was there any in particular which really meant something, like that was like, oh my god, that's it? You know, was the one which meant the most?
Well, talking just about that last, what I was just talking about, this Akash Bhatia. I fought him for the English title, so it was the sort of the middle of my career. But that put me to move to the next level. As such, you won the English title, then you either move on for British Commonwealth, or you moved on. I moved on to the IBO and going on to the WBO European. So I moved a whole different way, but that jumped me to the next level as such. You know, he was ranked up in the the top 2 in Britain, and it moved me into great positions through my career. So I would say probably that's my biggest, because of that. Obviously, the biggest my biggest belt is the WBO Intercontinental, where it put me, you know, and where it is.
Biggest turning point in your career at that point, then, isn't it? Going on to the next level. Right. What would you say is the best arena or venue you've ever fought at? I mean, you fought at some big places. What would you say is the best one?
To be honest, I think it's got to be the O2. The O2 is a fabulous stadium, and yes, I think it's got to be that. Obviously, I've had some nice ones. I went to Spain. I fought in Barcelona. Got my pants pulled down for that one, actually, so completely robbed on that one. But there you go. But yeah, on the O2, I think you don't get much better as a stadium in Britain, apart from the football stadiums, you know, the Wembleys and your home son. Yeah, O2, I'd say.
Yeah, is there a reason behind that? Do you reckon it's more so the noise of the crowd, or is it?
Yeah, I think it's set up for it. I think they've obviously it was made for that, you know, to make it. And I think obviously you can fit 18,000 people in there. It's a huge, and they're all on top of each other. I had a good load of my friends, celebrity friends as well, in the boxes. So made it a great time. Do you know what I mean? So yeah.
Everybody.
Shame it was actually that one was at the end of my career as well, which is a real shame. But you know.
I mean, you've got to fight there at some point, haven't you? It doesn't matter when.
Cool.
When going back to you saying the stadiums in there, I remember I was at the Anthony Joshua Povetkin fight the other year at Wembley, and there was I know Carl Froccia always says 80,000 people, and that's his little catchphrase thing. But I mean, to be in an arena there with the noise and the atmosphere and everyone rooting for an English fighter as Anthony Joshua. I don't think I've been to the Echo Arena to watch fights. I've been to the MEN or whatever it's called in Manchester now, the Manchester Arena. I've been to all the little clubs and stuff at the same time. I've fought at sports banks and stuff, but to be at that level and to watch that, I think the whole fight, I had goosebumps. I could only imagine what it was like at the Klitschko fight, but to watch what it was like for everyone rooting for one British fighter was unbelievable. So I can only imagine what it was like to fight at the O2 Arena there, definitely. So
amazing.
Yeah, just one thing which I always find interesting again is, I've come from a weird background with boxing, so I've been to about 3 or 4 different boxing gyms, just trying to find the right one. You've had obviously a big career. What would you say to any up and coming boxer nowadays, similar to myself, who's trying to to make it in a boxing sense, what would you put out there and say, just this is what you need to do, or this is the advice I would give?
Mainly, I'm now going into gyms and I train people. So obviously, one, you got to learn the art and think about it and study it. It's not about just punching each other. It's about learning the actual art behind. It's a chess game. Boxing's a chess game. So think about your boxing beyond the you punching them and then punching you. It's a whole different game. One thing, discipline, to be there and be training and getting your road work and getting all your hard work done. So make sure you're fit enough to do everything that's put in your position. So if someone's pressuring you, you can stay with them at every point. There's nothing that's going to take you off that step. One, obviously, you got to keep out of trouble and keep keep away from women.
Yeah, it's easier said
but
than done.
Age, these are things that young kids, they might go for they feel like it's the softer thing than the boxing club, and maybe this is, they got to concentrate, and women and whoever will come afterwards. Do you see what I mean? It's not all about. At that time, you might feel young, and this is what you got to do. But you know what? They can come in your career or after your career. Do you see what I mean? It's concentrate. It's a big time of your life you've got to push on with, and life's too short. Next minute you're 38 years old and you're retired, and I'm sitting there talking about my life and my fights. So it seems whizzes by.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask as well, if there was one piece of advice you could give yourself when you first, if you could go back in the time machine and speak to yourself before your first professional fight, is there anything which you would go back and say now to yourself, and anything you would, or would you be happy with everything that's happened, I guess, at that point?
I would say be patient for me, because I'm the most impatient person there is. I want everything now. I'm that person, which is a good thing and a bad thing, but I needed to be controlled. Management should have controlled me more. I signed with Hearn. That was my first. It was not Eddie. It was Barry.
He's
time. So I signed Matchroom. That was my thing. And if I'd have stayed there and stayed my whole career through, then maybe I would have been in a different position myself. And maybe sitting there with maybe a couple more belts over there.
Yeah.
But I chose to move on. I moved on, annoyingly, because of a massive and brilliant contract from Frank Maloney at the time, obviously now Kelly Maloney.
Yeah.
And made the decision to move. It wasn't a bad decision, but it turned out to be bad, because obviously he packed up and stopped, and I was left then to a point where I couldn't go back with Matchroom because I just left them. I got a contract with, obviously, Frank Maloney at the time.
Yeah.
And it all changed, So my life changed very similar, So my life changed a hell of a lot with boxing, and I had to go and scrap my way back up, Yeah. And luckily, because I sold tickets, I was jumping on small hall shows as such, and getting the point where I could fight for titles, because I'd sold the tickets. I was making them enough money that they could say, okay, you come on my show, I will put up that title, because titles and stuff cost money. They have to pay a lot of sanctioning fees and stuff to go with it. But be patient.
Yeah, that's a massive thing with boxing anyway, which you mentioned there, is ticket sales as well. I mean, even at my level, you've got to sell tickets to fights, otherwise you get the first fight in the show, the first fight out kind of thing, and the decisions will go against you and everything. It's mad. Anyway, going back onto the subject, 5 quick fire questions. We're pretty much at the end of the podcast now. I always ask this. Favorite boxer of all time?
Sugar Ray Leonard.
Yeah, I think we answered that before, didn't we? Your favourite fight of all time, apart from yours, so in boxing?
Barrera and Morales, 1 and 2. I love them fights. They were fantastic. Yeah. Nigel Ben McClellan as a young man coming through was a big wow type fight. Again, fantastic fighters. Gatti Ward.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah, probably the best fight of all
wars.
time,
I mean,
in my opinion.
Yeah, you can't. You watch them, and you just take your hat off to them. Fair play.
Yeah.
And I don't know how someone can stand there pretty much half with their guard down and take punches from men that are world class level punching.
Yeah.
Take that and give back, then take it again, then give back, and fair play to them. They got different brain to me.
Right. One thing which I always find interesting as well is the third question I'm going to ask is, what is your best post fight meal? So the fight, like a meal which you have after a fight.
After the fight.
Yeah,
okay.
After the fight.
Well, before the fight, the night before, my meal was paella.
Right. Okay.
It was carbs, very carby, salty, so you could put the waters back in and stuff. So that was my after fight meal. Oh, do you know what? I'm quite simple. I love my food. Food's mad. I love it. But I'd love sausage and mash and beans. That sounds good to me. I mean, just something simple, but just stuff my face with it. You know. I mean, I like all sorts of curries. I like all sorts, but I like yes. I'd like a big sausage mash and beans. About 12 sausages. That sounds good. And mash, whole tin of beans.
Right. Number 4, favorite sporting memory outside of boxing. So whether that's your own memory, actually, let's say this: your best sporting memory outside of boxing, and what is your favorite sporting memory outside of boxing? So like your favorite football game or favorite rugby game, or whatever it is.
Okay. My favourite memory was probably signing for Fulham and them sort of thing, getting through and playing for the county. Then, so football wise, we're talking out of boxing here. So football was probably my big sporting memories. My biggest supporting memories. Do you know what? Probably 1990 World Cup. I was 8 years old. I remember being on holiday with my family and watching the England going through. I think we all got to the semi-finals that year. 1990. That was Italia World Cup. Yeah. And like your David Platts and your Gascoignes and them sort of, and loving every minute, watching it with my dad, and you know, all on a holiday sort of vibe. That was probably my big, strong, lovable memories of sport. Out of boxing, obviously, that all these things are. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, I was -7 at that point, so I was born in '97. So for me, that wasn't anything which I can remember, unfortunately, 1990. But, right. The last one is there's.
Oh no, I was the same age as you. I'm the same age as you. I just watched it on TV. I'm talking about. Sorry.
Yeah. Right, okay. There's obviously next week there's a big fight happening, which is Mike Tyson's coming back to the ring against Roy Jones Jr. Who do you think is going to win out of them two?
Yeah, I might throw you out here. Right, Mike Tyson was a phenomenal fighter. Yeah. Phenomenal fighter. Roy Jones was one of my all-time greats. He was that good.
Yeah,
he's
unbelievable fighter
in his prime. A lot of people see Roy Jones and sort of remember Roy Jones from his later 10 years.
Yeah.
When he was a young man, the days of him and Hopkins and he was phenomenal, that good. When Eubanks and Ben and people like that would have, sorry to say, but you would have avoided him when he was in his prime. He was that good.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, they're both older gentlemen and not that much different in age, really. Tyson is a ferocious fighter and is all or nothing.
Yeah.
Can you be all or nothing at his age now? Okay, I've seen some videos of him training, but can you do that for more than 3 rounds? I don't think so.
I think it's only 6 rounds, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 6-round fight.
That's it. And I think it's 8 rounds. I think it's 8 rounds.
Is it 8 rounds? Not too. I can't work out what's going on with it, to be fair. It seems to be changing quite a lot.
Yeah, well, maybe. Well, if you ask me, he's got 3 amazing rounds, but against someone who's an amazing counterpuncher and very, very clever.
Yeah.
If this is I believe Roy Jones will keep him at distance, wear him down, and make himself look amazing.
Yeah, I think
that's my opinion.
I personally, I think I agree with you on that, because I think Tyson's coming back after, I mean, his last fight was what, 2002. He was fighting, that was the end of his career, and you could tell it was the end of his career, Mike Tyson's. But Roy Jones fought recently. I mean, within the last 10 years he's been fighting. He's still got experience of the sport, although it's not been the highest level.
I was over in Miami.
Yeah,
I was over in Miami training one of my fights when he fought. Because I was over there with one of my sponsors and stuff, Alfie Best, and they flew over to, I can't remember where they flew, Philly, I think, and he fought. Who did he fight? The bare knuckle fighter. Oh bloody hell! Anyway, he fought. I can't remember who it was, and a British fighter. So he went over, and this was we're only talking 3 years ago.
Okay,
and
yeah,
he was fighting then, and it was different levels still.
Yeah, I mean, Tyson, when he was even fighting, even in his first fight, he suffered with asthma. So they always said if Tyson ever went past the third, fourth round, he was always blowing, because if he didn't get you out in the first 2 or 3 rounds, you had a pretty decent chance against him. And that's obviously what the likes of the people who've beat him along the lines, like Lennox Lewis, Buster Douglas in his first, when he fought him as well. So yeah, I think Roy Jones will surprise everyone with it, to be fair. I think it could go either way, depending on who gets the big punch in. But I think if Roy Jones boxes him, he wins 100%. And I mean, that's coming up to the end of the podcast, which we've got on here. Just one question I wanted to ask. I wasn't going to ask this question, but because you've got the Rocky photo on the background there, what's your favourite Rocky film?
Oh, right. Do you know what? It's obviously a long time ago when we was watching them. I used to love Rocky 3, but I loved Rocky 3, but I was that age where wrestling was huge, and he fought Hulk Hogan, and it was like so it made it huge. They're different films now. As adults, probably if you show kids it, they half laugh at them. They're different. But to us me as a kid, you weren't even born. But me as a kid, that was special to me. He fought another hero of mine, of Hulk Hogan. It's quite mad.
The ultimate fight. Yeah. No, we actually paid to go to go to a night with Sylvester Stallone a few years ago. Me and my dad, because when I was a kid, my dad, similar to yourself, loved Rocky 3, and it was always like, you need to watch Rocky 3 because of Mr. T and Thunder Lips in it and all this kind of stuff. We went to go and see him the other year, and it was probably one of the best nights of my life. We never met him, but to hear him speak and going on about the stories of Rocky was fantastic. But we've come up to the end of the podcast there, mate. So it's been a pleasure speaking to yourself. Is there anything else you want to add? Any plugs you want to put across before we leave, or are we all good?
Only that if there's anyone on your Instagram or whoever want to ask questions, please just come follow me, and I'll answer any questions.
What's your Instagram? Just so everyone knows.
I think it's at Ben Jones Boxer.
Yeah. Just fire Ben a message over there, and I'm sure he'll get back to you at some point.
As well.
Yeah, fantastic.
No problem.
That's it, mate. Nice one for joining us. Cheers for joining Talk Tonight Sports. I've been Liam Hillyer. We've had Ben on, so pleasure, mate. And keep safe and keep yourself occupied during this lockdown.